Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you enjoy spooky stories and eerie tales, you're in the right place. Sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's stories. Hope you enjoy. It all starts with me, 25 years men, in the shower at no later than 7 p.m. When I get out the shower and begin drying myself, I notice my sink mirror is a lot more steamed up than the rest of the glass panes in my other mirror. I thought this a little odd, but thought nothing of it until I noticed the paint and brick crumbling around the edges of the mirror. This mirror is tacky, no frame, just screwed in and some silver caps placed on top of those screws. So I just assume it's because the house is tacky too, which it was. Skip a few hours, and I get out of bed to piss. I don't bother turning the lights on because it's lit up by the light on the landing. I finish up and start washing my hands, but I notice the mirror isn't really reflecting that well. Much more like it was slightly transparent. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. I noticed what looked like the reflection on the lenses of glasses on the other side of the mirror. I thought to myself, if that's actually glasses, that's no further than 2 meters away. This obviously freaked me the fuck out, and I just noped off back to bed. A couple of days went by, and I just kind of forgot about it until one day I thought about just checking. So I grabbed a screwdriver, and as soon as I reached up to turn the first screw, I heard clattering behind it. Instead of deterring me, this emboldened me. I had to know what the fuck was going on. I unscrewed the mirror, and to my horror, I found the mirror was in fact a two-way. Not only that, but I found the mirror was hiding a gaping hole in the wall, which led to about a 4-foot gap. And at the end of the crevice, another hole in the wall covered up by a plastic clip thing. Hard to explain, but kind of like a plate that clipped into this hole in the wall. So what do? Grab my toothbrush, stick my head and arm through my hole, and poke off this plate. It falls to the ground, and I'm hit with a wave of cold air like I've just opened a window. But was it fuck a window? I look through, and I notice old red bricks. Bricks that look 200 years old. Even further behind the hole. At this point, I'm mortified, but I felt the need to know what this place was. Who, if anyone, was watching me? I thought to myself, if I leave it too late, I'll never know. I've already left too much evidence of me finding out. If the clattering wasn't a person, the plate and two-way surely was. So if I left the plate on their side of the wall, they'd know. I went to my tool cupboard and grabbed my hammer. I couldn't be even slightly bothered that the landlord would definitely kick me out for smashing his wall down, but I just felt compelled to find out. I began knocking my wall down. It took about 5 minutes to make a hole big enough for me to fit through. I climb in and begin on the other wall when I hear a few people talking. This deters me none. If anything, I smash faster. Once I begin making a hole big enough, I notice this room I'm about to enter is fucking huge, like warehouse-sized. It's old and abandoned looking, dusty and decrepit. Once I've made a hole big enough, I climb through. Oddly, I still hear people talking, so I thought, I've got the drop on 'em. So I start creeping about, taking in the sights of this old warehouse, for lack of a better word. A collapsed roof, concrete flooring. Multiple floors, though some had fell through. I get close and closer to the chatter, until I notice an old 1960s-ish television. The one with the dials that was wide and had the TV in one half, and just some speakers or SMA keys in the other. Still on, yet no signs at all of wires, or any power source for that matter. As I get closer to the TV, it's playing a talk show. The voices I heard all became clear. When I was about 3 meters away, I noticed a sort of dilapidated wall on my right. Behind this wall was a throne of bricks. Atop the throne, a man, wearing gray overalls, a pair of thick, squared glasses, and greasy, receding hair. As he makes eye contact with me, he doesn't move. He just murmurs, "You're not supposed to be here." He repeats this while a gradually increasing smile adorns his dirty face. "You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here." He progressively gets louder and more erratic until I decide, fuck this. I run for the hole, and as I'm climbing through, I look back, expecting him to have began chasing me. He hadn't moved. All I could see was the tips of his boots poking around the wall. All the while, he'd now began maniacally laughing. I get to the street and look to the side this warehouse should have been on. Nothing. Just more houses, lit up with life like people lived there. I was utterly confused, but not confused enough to go back and check. So I left and went to my mum's around the corner. I told her all about it, and she didn't believe a word I said. She actually got other family members around to find out if I was okay, and the only person who could see I was genuinely terrified was my brother. I don't know if he believed me, but he could tell I thought it was true. After a very rough sleep, I woke up and went into the living room to ask what they thought. They couldn't make heads or tails of me. So I asked my brother. He said, "I believe you." So I asked him to help me, and he said, "Whatever you need." I almost cried, knowing that I at least had someone who trusts me. I said to him, "Grab a screwdriver." I don't know why, but I just thought with all the weird stuff like the no power, the weird talk from the guy, and the fact there was no fucking warehouse on the outside, there'd be a need for it. I took him to my house, and I could see on his face he was just entertaining me. He didn't really believe. He just wanted to help his mentally ill little brother at this point. Something my mother was saying about all this. We got to the bathroom, and to my shock and simultaneous roll of the eyes, the bathroom was completely back to normal. Not even a speck of brick dust in sight. I'd left that place so fucked that I just came to the conclusion it was the fucking devil or something. But I began to unscrew the mirror. Once I peeled away the mirror, I noticed immediately behind my wall was a big wooden door with little bits of graffiti. I noticed my brother's face drop. He knew there should be another house there, or at least more of my fucking wall. I run to my tool cupboard and grab my sledge this time. I go fucking apeshit and smash the sink in the wall. I needed to know. Behind the wall was a door, as I'd expected. I opened this door and stuff fell out, like an old Hoover, bags, etc. It was a storage cupboard. My brother's face dropped. He was back to having reservations. He must have thought, "That's a fucking cupboard, mate." I was in disbelief, too. How could this massive warehouse be gone? I thought this until I noticed something off about it. The wall in the right was really old, dark brown brick. The wall in front, light brown, no older than a year. I got a bit closer and noticed the fucking mortar was still wet. I thought, fuck this. I kicked the wall and it bowed and slowly tumbled, revealing exactly what I wanted: the warehouse. I kicked down the rest of the wall and my brother interrupted with, "I can hear that TV." We both climbed in and I began pointing out things I'd mentioned to prove I wasn't nuts. Everything I pointed to, my brother's unease grew. He must have been thinking, "Okay, where's the guy?" We checked the throne out properly, and it was just a tall seat made of bricks stacked against the wall. We checked around a little more, but daren't stray too far from the hole we entered through. so we finished up poking around and decided to leave. As we turned around, he was stood about 10 meters away, just staring at the two of us. My brother, with zero hesitation, said, "Fuck no," and bolted for the hole. I was just stuck there, glued to the floor and deeply in shock. I tried to move, but to no avail. The man stood opposite me, in the hole to the right of me, creating a triangle of me, him, and the hole. He muttered, "I thought I told you. You aren't meant to be here." I tried to reply, but I was just frozen. Then he moved, as if to take a step toward me, and my body woke up. I sprinted for the hole, and as I got there, I turned back to see if he'd not moved like the last time. But instead he had. He'd moved to where I was stood, and he was now on all fours, almost sniffing the floor, or about to lick it or something. I didn't stick around to find out. When I got to my house's front door, my brother was there, white as paper and shaking like a leaf, with no hesitation and probably an undue lack of sympathy. I said, "I fucking told you," and we have each other a look before bolting back to my mum's house. When we got in, my mum said, "Well, is he lying?" My brother just told her to STFU, and we started ringing the police. We didn't know if he'd committed any crime or whatever, but surely the peephole was enough. The police said they'd come and look, but couldn't get someone out immediately. They came out early hours in the morning, and me and my brother, who'd not slept a wink, walked them to the house where they then went inside. I told them just before they entered to check behind the bathroom mirror as it might be reattached. Officer 1 rolled his eyes, and Officer 2 was already opening the door. They went inside, and about 15 minutes later, they came back out. Officer 2 threw up in the bin immediately, and Officer 1 told me to go back to my mum's, where they'd inform us of what they found after they did some police stuff like calling it in, etc. When they got to my mum's, they asked everyone to sit down and said, behind the mirror was a gap of about 2 foot before the next house. In between the two houses was what seemed like 5 to 10 semi-decayed and recently deceased animals, such as dogs and cats, they assumed. I interrupted and said, "What about the fucking warehouse?" They assured us there was no warehouse, but definitely something to look into. After weeks or months of dribs and drabs of information from the police, they finally gave us a definitive answer. Next door to us there had been a man who used to live there. This house had metal on the windows and had been abandoned for years, before I'd moved in anyway, and he had severe special needs. I asked what he looked like, and they described him as wearing glasses and long receding hair. I said, "That's the guy." But they replied, "He died in that house about 9 years ago." I was in disbelief. There was no warehouse, as they'd ripped down the two houses entirely. There was no man, as he'd died almost a decade ago. No TV, no peephole, no throne. I was at a loss, thinking maybe me and my brother are fucking nuts. Maybe my house was haunted. Maybe this, maybe that. Until the other week, I drove through my old street and past my old house. And in place of my old house was a new build. In the front yard of this new build was a man. Dirty overalls, long, greasy hair, and thick glasses. He looked up to meet eyes with me, and as I stared back, he shot me back a smug little grin bearing his rotten yellow teeth. In shock, I stopped the car. I rolled down my passenger window and spoke. "Who are you?" he uttered back, almost proudly. "The man of your dreams." I just rolled my window up, drove home, and cried like a baby. I don't know if this man will be behind my next mirror, or is already in the one I've got. But one thing's for sure, I'm not going to find out. The name of this story is When I was 11 years old, my family was in a car accident. We were coming home from my sister's soccer game. We kept asking Dad to stop at McDonald's. He gave us the typical, "We have food at home, and money doesn't grow on trees" talk. I think we were wearing him down. He looked at my mother, whispered something, and started to change lanes. We were getting excited in the back seat. Our house was only a mile or so down the road, and my dad was taking an unexpected turn. We knew not to keep asking at this point. Dad loved little surprises, little deceptions. Like when he told me we needed to stop at the bank after school, and instead, he brought me to get ice cream. Or the time he woke us up early on a Saturday for a doctor's appointment, only to bring us mini-golfing and to the arcade. Mom secretly loved when he did this. She loved how far he would go to surprise us, even if it was just a Happy Meal. The arrow turned green, and Dad started driving again. I was too busy thinking about what toy would come with my meal. I didn't see anything. I heard Dad shout, "Oh my gee." Then everything went black. I woke up seconds later. At least I felt like it was only seconds later. I wasn't in the car anymore. My vision was fuzzy. The lights were so bright. It felt like I was staring at the sun. I just wanted to wipe the sleep from my eyes, but my body felt like it was 1,000 pounds. I started to feel panicked. I heard a voice say, "Hey, buddy, it's okay. Easy now." I looked in the direction of the voice. It was a lady. She was purple. My vision was slowly coming back to me. Things around me were starting to take shape. No, she's not purple. It's her shirt. And her pants. It's a nurse. Did Dad really bring us to the doctor's office instead of McDonald's? I know that can't be true, but nothing makes sense right now. I feel the panic inside me growing. It's okay. It's okay. Try to stay calm. You've been through a lot. Your parents will be so happy to know that you're awake. The nurse had a calming voice. I don't know why I'm here, but she makes me feel safe. I have so many questions. I don't know where to start. What happened? Where is my mom? How did I get here? My brain was racing. I tried to speak, but all I could say was, "What?" The nurse told me that my family was in a car accident. Someone sped through a red light while my dad was turning and crashed into us. She said that we must have an angel looking out for us, because everyone in our car survived, and she couldn't say the same for the other car. Apparently, I took the most damage. She says I've been in a coma for 5 days. At first, they didn't believe I was going to make it, but I started showing signs of improvement after the 3rd day. She sat with me another minute or so, then told me she was going to go get my parents. They must have been worried sick. Mom was probably biting her nails to the bone. She always bites her nails when she gets stressed out. I'm sure Dad is blaming himself, even if it wasn't his fault. Jenny must be so scared. She's always been the nervous type. She still comes into my room every time there's a thunderstorm. I'd hate to see how she was when she thought her big brother was going to die. But the nice nurse lady did say that my family survived. And now that I'm awake, that means that everything is going to be okay. Or at least that's what I thought until the door at the hospital opened again. When the nurse walked back into the room, there were 2 people behind her, a man and a woman. They had bandages on their faces, and the man had a cast on his arm. "Oh, thank God," the woman said as she walked up to my bedside. She had tears in her eyes. The man stayed back a step. With a hand on the woman's shoulder, he said, "I told you he was a fighter. I knew you'd pull through." This isn't right. Maybe my eyes were still adjusting. No, it can't be. That doesn't sound like them either. The woman leans in to hug me, and I flinch. There must be a mistake. I don't know these people. Where are my parents? Don't be silly, the woman says, while wiping the tears away from her face. It's me, baby. It's Mom. Now I'm 100% certain these people aren't my parents. My mom would never call me baby. She hates pet names. She won't even call me Matt. It's always Matthew. I can feel the panic lump in my throat again. I begin speaking louder, almost shouting, "You're not my mom. I don't know you. Where is my mom? Where is my dad? And where is Jenny?" The woman slowly backs away. Turning her head, she looks over to the nurse. "Is he okay?" Her voice is trembling. He doesn't recognize me. The nurse steps forward. After severe trauma, sometimes people can suffer short-term memory loss. He may be disoriented and need some time to get his bearings. I started shouting louder, almost screaming. I know who my parents are. They are not my parents. I pointed directly at the pair to emphasize my point. And where's my sister? Where's Jenny? "Sweetie, who's Jenny? You don't have a sister," the woman said in hysterics. "Nurse, you have to do something. There must be some kind of brain damage." "Sweetie?" Again, my mother would scoff if she heard someone call me sweetie. My fight or flight senses are kicking in. My panic turns to rage. I start thrashing in my bed, trying to find the strength to stand up and leave this nightmare. I'm connected to too many wires and machines. I don't even know where to begin. The man is holding onto the woman in the corner. She's still crying, but I can't be bothered by it. The nurse rushes over to the bed. She's trying to calm me down, but it's no use. She hits a button in the side of the bed. In seconds, the man and woman are pushed out of the way by a group of nurses trying to restrain me. They're holding on to me and trying to keep me from hurting myself. Once they realized that I wouldn't calm down on my own, the nice nurse lady said, "We're going to have to sedate him." One of the other nurses rushed out and back with a small bottle and a syringe. They held down my leg and stuck me, injecting the fluid into me. It was warm. My arms started feeling heavy again. I was lacking the ability to speak, to fight back. Before I lost consciousness, I looked to my side and saw the man and woman again. They were standing in the doorway. The last thing I remembered seeing before everything went black was the woman's face. She was staring at me. She said nothing, but her mouth was wide open. She was smiling. That's it for today's stories. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.